31, 2025, the president directed Riley Moore and the committees on appropriation and foreign relations to go and investigate the alleged Christian genocide in Nigeria. Now, those congressional committees had hearings. Bipartisan trips were made to Nigeria. The Nigerian leaders met with the Americans and all of that. And Riley Moore had been mandated to submit a report to President Trump. What they have now done is that Riley Moore, leading the investigation committee, has now, with the committees, appropriation and foreign affairs, submitted a report to President Trump in the White House. Right. The United States has not adopted that report. The government of Donald Trump has not made any pronouncement on that report. Correct. The Nigerian government has also not responded to it. Correct. This is the opinion of the investigating team. Right. What happens hereafter is when we will be able to make definitive statements. Right. One quick very point that I can make is about the recommendation that Nigeria should do away with the Sharia.
That was what
now, the Sharia is a constitutional matter. Yeah. The process of how it came about has been well articulated by Matthew Hassan Kuka, now Bishop, in his book, Religion, Politics and Power in Northern Nigeria. Now, the decision when the 1979 Constitution was being formulated was that it would be a personal orthodoxy. Sharia is supposed to apply to persons who submit themselves to it. The abuse is the problem. Its conversion in Zamfara State in 1999, further emulated by other states in this country, into a criminal orthodoxy. That's where the problem is. So nobody can say President Tinubu can unilaterally abolish Sharia. He cannot do that. If it is a constitutional matter, it will have to go through the Constitution.
All right.
The viral claim you have seen exposed U.S. indict Tinubu government insecurity, demanding end of Sharia and blaspheming laws. Social media and YouTube headlines. It aggregates real but ongoing U.S. congressional pressure on Nigeria. No formal indictment, like criminal charge against the government, has happened. Instead, U.S. lawmakers are pushing bills and resolutions criticizing Nigeria headline of religious violence, insecurity, and certain laws. U.S. Congress members from both parties, like Rep. Chris Smith, Rep. Riley Moore, and Senator Ted Cruz, are U.S. Congress members from both parties, Chris Smith, Rep. Riley Moore, and Ted Cruz. U.S. Congress members from both parties, like Rep. Chris Smith, Rep. Riley Moore, and Ted Cruz, are very worried about attack on Christians in Nigeria. They said thousands of Christians have been killed in recent years by groups like Boko Haram, SWAP, and some Fulani headers militants. They called it serious religious persecution of even genocide in some reports. They blame part of the problems on Sharia law in 12 northern states, which allow things like death penalty for certain crimes under Islamic laws, blasphemy laws, rules punishing insulting to religions, often used in those states, sometimes leading to death sentence or jail for things like posting online or speaking out. U.S. lawmakers says these laws are used unfairly against Christians and others, and that state governors, judged and officially sometimes ignore or allow violence tied to religions. What is the U.S. doing now? Bills like the Nigerian Religious Freedom and Accountability Act of 2026, introduced around February 2026, ask the U.S. government to investigate and possibly sanction, punish with travel bans, asset freeze Nigerian officials who enforce or tolerate these laws of violence. Push Nigeria to repeal council blaspheming laws, and review Sharia crime code. Report yearly on persecution and check it if US and to Nigerian helps stop it or accidentally support bad practices. Earlier bills from 2025 targeted similar issues like listing governors or officials for sanction over terror-related attack. There is talk of redesigning Nigerian as a country of particular concern for religious freedom violation, which can lead to penalties, though past ones were waived. President Tinubu government strongly denies widespread religious persecution. They say Nigerians' constitution protects all faiths. No national blasphemy law exists. It is state level in the north. Insecurity affects everyone, Muslims and Christians, and the government is fighting terrorists. Some officials call US claim unfair or interfering in Nigerian internal affairs. This is not the US government officially indicting or charging Tinubu administrative like a crime. It's pressured from Congress lawmakers, often tied to Christian advocacy group. Bills are proposed, but not all passed yet. And even if they do, they target specific people or push for change, not direct military action or full sanction on the whole country. Do you think that's the plan and what the US are pushing in the House, Congress, that is going to be possible? And if it is possible, do you think it's going to work and to be allowed in Nigeria? Let's hear from you on the comment section. Please don't forget to like and share. And if you are new, please subscribe. And for my returning subscribers, thank you for subscribing. Please, let's hear from you on the comment section. Don't just watch and leave. Let's hear from you on the comment section. Drop your comments. Let's discuss there. God bless you and remain safe wherever you are. Bye.